Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and it's time for another Kickstarter roundup, which is usually every Monday, although it depends. Sometimes I mix things in if there aren't enough new Kickstarters or anything to keep it interesting. But there are, rest assured, plenty of Kickstarters this week. In fact, I ended up cutting a bunch of smaller ones out in general, and I've asked this before, but I'm always interested in your feedback in case things change. Generally, when a campaign has, 100, maybe 200 backers, I often will not always include it, just because I feel there's not enough general interest to spend 5 minutes going over things. If you feel differently, if you want to see things, let me know. Generally, if I get requests to cover a game, I will usually end up covering it the next week, because a single person asking for the game means more to me than wondering if the 200 currently backing it are interested in hearing more. So yeah, if you want to know in general, I'm saying words wrong. If you want to have me in general backing more of these covering more of these smaller campaigns, let me know. Or if you have specific ones you want to see, let me know as well. We're going to start with a little bit of news going on, and not really news, but, well, news, content creators, different kind of things. So first of all, if you subscribe to Kick the Table, a Kickstarter monitor on Board Game Geek, it seems that they are sadly, or he is sadly, Mike is sadly closing this down. This is one that I haven't personally followed it myself in general, just because I do my own stuff for this, and I haven't found it adds as much value to myself, but I know that there are a lot of people. I think there are thousands of people. Oh, here, 5,431 subscribers to this, who watch it, who go over, read it, to read every one of these posts that go up in terms of just covering what's going on Kickstarter. A great breakdown. What's the percentage funded? What's the backers? How many days left? It's a quick, consolidated amount of information that it seems he is stopping it. It's not 100% clear. Doesn't go into fully, but it seems to be tech issues based, meaning something to do with the way Kickstarter's API works or whatnot, and the fact that, practically speaking, like right now, there are 510 Kickstarter games in the tabletop game categories. Some of that's going to be because of ZineQuest, but it's not a crazy thing nowadays. There are just a ton of campaigns. This goes back to what I just said a minute ago about how I try to filter things out just because there's too many games on Kickstarter. There's only so much we can practically cover, so I try to cover the ones that I think have the most interest. Similar to what he's doing. He covered the ones that have the most interest, but it's just there's a lot of Kickstarters out there. For whatever reason, his API or whatever it is being shut off in terms of Kickstarter. In some sense, something changed technologically, and he's no longer able to do it the way he was able to do it, and he's certainly not going to do it manually, because that would be absolutely crazy given the type of information he provides, the level of detail. And that's basically it. It's just a sad update that Mike is unfortunately, or Kick the Table is unfortunately going to be ending as of now. It is always possible things will change. Generally, when people post announcements like this, you may have someone who reaches out who says, hey, I actually can do that for you. I know how to do this, this, and this. But I'm just informing you in case you are following him. It's unfortunate, and best of luck to Mike and whatever happens next with that. While we're on the subject, I'm going to shout out to a few people, two of which I've shouted out to before. But to begin with, we have Liege of Games, who's at 942 subscribers. In general, when I see people who I follow who are at that 900 mark, I usually try to cover them here, because it is so satisfying to cross that 1,000 subscriber mark. That's when you first get monetized. It really is a milestone for any content creator. It means a lot to them. So in general, if you are interested in Kickstarter coverage, if you have not been following Liege of Games, I recommend going ahead and subscribing to him, even if he did decide to put out the exact same video that I did today about Bloodstone versus Arena of the Contest and Super Fantasy Brawl. So even if he did completely decide to do the same video as me, technically his went up 2 hours earlier than mine, that is neither here nor there, but nonetheless, Liege of Games, I can't remember his name, Chris, I think it's Chris from Liege of Games, so follow his stuff. He covers things in a lot of detail. He really does his homework on these games. Many of these games he'll go into much more detail than I will as well, in terms of just covering, reading the rulebook, going over the gameplay, doing all of that stuff. He started doing Kickstarter coverage maybe 6 months ago. I don't even know. Let's see. If we scroll down to date added oldest, we can see 5 months ago. 5 months ago is when he started doing it. His coverage has come a lot in a fairly short time, and he's building a following because his coverage is good. He's on the mark in terms of telling you what's coming up, what's on Kickstarter, what's going on, occasional deep dives like the Bloodstone vs Arena Contest vs Super Fantasy Brawl, giving you a lot of solid information in general. If you are in any way not getting all of your Kickstarter stuff fulfilled over here, and again, he goes into a lot of things more detail than I do, check out Liege of Games. It's worth seeing if he is for you or not for you. He may not be, and he may be, but it's worth finding out. While on the subject, a quicker but shorter thing, the usual. Other people I use for Kickstarter coverage in general, there's a lot. I'm just covering a few. Shelf Clutter I use for a ton of my what's coming up in Kickstarter. Shelf Clutter is one of the most helpful sources in terms of just seeing what's coming up every single week. If you want to know what's hitting that week before it hits, check out Shelf Clutter. I talked with them last week because I'm doing a once a month of them. He does it every single week. I recommend checking it out. And then, of course, King of Average as well is going to have his Kickstarter coverage all over the board. He's, the real OG in terms of he's the one who's been doing this the longest. longest, longer than I have, and doing a solid job of covering Kickstarters left, right, and center, deep dives, what he's backed, what's coming up, Kickstarter news, exclusive stuff, all over the board. All of these channels are worth checking out if you want more Kickstarter coverage. And from there, let's start with our first one. The first one's going to be Clash of Deck, which is unfortunately canceled. I will not be going into this one extensively because of that. It is a two-player deck, two-player deck game, or I can't think of the words, card game. Card game is the word I'm looking for, in which you're going to be fighting each other using a card system. This can be similar to any style of these games that you've seen, Hearthstone or anything, any Magic the Gathering, any of these classic games where you put out creatures, cast them, utilize them, attack, defense, abilities, all that. It looks like it's giving you a very distilled, simplified version of one of these games, with just mostly iconography on the cards. It isn't be coming back, so I'm not covering it extensively in detail, but it will be coming back to Kickstarter at some point, unspecified in terms of exactly when. But it was cancelled, unfortunately. Then we have Defcon 1. Defcon 1 I covered already. This is more of an update. We have, a day left on the campaign, and this is one where, so the creator reached out to me after I did my last video. So some of the things I'm saying are coming from the creator, so take it with whatever grain of salt. And what I mean by that is, for example, one of the things they wanted me to focus on, they just asked me to cover a few more details, and I'm happy to do so, because one of my complaints or critiques about it was the fact that there just wasn't a lot of comprehensive information about the game. They didn't do a great job distilling or selling it, or even just publicizing it. They focused more heavily on the French market. It's one of the things you're going to see as a problem in the comments. People are concerned that they're targeting a French audience, that the rulebook is going to be, bad English or whatever it is. Speaking of bad English, my English is not so great either, but not the greatest English in terms of the rulebook. People have concerns about the target audience, the translation, all that stuff. So to that end, some of the messages from the creator, they said that they've done other games. They've done Thief and Mare Nostrum. The rulebooks there generally are pretty fine. I have not read the rulebook for Thief. I have read the rulebook for Mare Nostrum. Solid rulebook, no issues whatsoever, no comprehension issues, no language issues, all of that. So they are guaranteeing you well-written rules. But it's sad that they said it's one of those things. It's sad, but it's not a problem. It's not a flag. We guarantee you rules well-written thanks to our foreign partners collaborators. So they misspelled guarantee even while they talk about well-written rules. That is not a problem, because it's a different person running the Kickstarter campaign than the person proofreading the rules. Now, it's certainly a reason to be concerned. It's certainly a reason to wonder, but they do have a track record of putting out good rule books, so no guarantees on what Defcon 1's rulebook will be like, whether it'll be any good or not good, but their track record of putting out games with solid rulebooks that have no translation issues is totally fine. I'm not concerned on that count. Other things, it's a 2 to 6 player game or 2 to 5 player game. And they said that the game is actually designed to be 2 to 5 players. It's not like a 4 to 5 player game with a bad 2 or 3 player version. Supposedly it is good at 2 to 5 players. Keep in mind, this is what I mean when I say this is coming from the designer. I have not played this game. I am passing on the publisher's opinion that it is a solid 2-player game and a solid 3-player game as well, for those who are looking for that. It is purely their opinion that I'm happy to pass on the message. In no way does it reflect me playing the game and actually knowing that. As far as the gameplay itself, it's going to be, you're going to have 5 different blocks on the board. Each person takes control of one of the blocks, asymmetric blocks, different abilities, different upgrades, all these different things. Throughout the game, you will be upgrading your abilities, you'll be drafting units, you'll be engaging in political attacks on each other. As the game progresses, as you advance that Defcon tracker from 5 down to 4, down to 3, down to 2, down to 1, you're going to unlock more abilities of things that will happen in the game, more stuff you can do in the game. And there's this whole space race as well. So the space race up here, that if you engage the space race, you'll get more abilities, access to satellites, all those things. There is a decent 4-minute video somewhere, I don't remember exactly where, that did cover a lot of the stuff that the game goes over. It wasn't one of they have a bunch of videos on the page that are breaking down specific sections. I don't know exactly what the video was. I'll try to link to it down below. But yeah, there's a 4-minute video that does a decent job of going over how the game actually plays to a decent extent. Doesn't cover the full gameplay, although they do have the rules as well. You can check out the rules for the formatting. It's going to be a very typical what's the GMT style rules, where you just have bullet point by bullet point by bullet point. I personally hate those rules. I am not a fan of GMT's rules at all. I find them to be one of the least comprehensive and readable rule books out there, but it works for a lot of people, and this is following that format. And again, it will be, I'm talking about the formatting, I'm not talking about the English versus non-English. But overall, I mean, I'm sticking with what I said last week in terms of the price point on this is high. You're talking about $100 to get this game for something that just doesn't have enough content creation or looks into or a track record to know if this is going to be one that's worth it. That being said, it's not a lot of people in terms of backing it, so with 628 backers, it might be hard to get your hands on a copy later. This may well end up being your best opportunity to get it, even though, whatever. So check it out if you're interested to look into it. If you're not, well, then we'll move on to the next one. And speaking of the next one, it's going to be Vault Wars Relic Roadshow. This is going to be by Floodgate Games. This is an expansion to, and it is an expansion, it's an expansion to Vault Wars, which is basically this game where you're auctioning for the contents of treasure hunters' vaults. Think Storage Wars combined with a fantasy theme and a game, and this is going to be the expansion to that. It's adding a bunch of new things. It's going to be adding, let's see if we can find over here, it's going to be adding new vaults where the person who bids the second highest will also get access to powerful relics or whatnot. It gives you new relics that involve bid and bluff your way to the dark side, new powerful opportunities. It gives you more villains, and it gives you vices, these sets of different cards that will give into vices, giving you special abilities, but also having a downside at the same time. The game is going to be $12 for the game plus shipping, and shipping is going to come in at, I believe, is $4. Let me see if I can find that chart. $4 for United States for shipping. Obviously, check out your zone in terms of what zone you are from or you are in. And then the base game is going to be, base game and expansion is going to be $30 plus $8 shipping, $38. The game does come with a promo pack, but no stretch goals. So if you take a look over here, we have free promos being given to every single backer, and that's relevant here because the price point here is fine but not great. Overall, $12 is $12 for a game. Sorry, it's $12 plus $4 shipping, so it's $16 for a game that has an MSRP of $14.95 based on looking at this price point over here. So if you see over here, it says $40 down to $30, and then if you look online, the MSRP of the game is, the MSRP of the base game is $25, which means the expansion is probably MSRP of $15, which means you're paying $16 for a $15 MSRP. That is practically speaking overpaying. You're paying early, and you're paying more than you will have to pay at an online store later down the road. That said, you are also getting that promo pack, which that promo pack may well be worth the $5-6 you're overpaying. So if you're interested in this game, it's certainly not the worst price. Will it hold its value in terms of selling it down the road? Almost certainly not. It's too cheap and just not enough there that once you factor in shipping and resale costs and all that, you're probably not getting your money back on that. But then again, if you're backing this game, there's a decent chance. Actually, let's find out because I didn't actually look at that. We have $81 who are coming for the full package, and $321 who are coming from the expansion. So yes, so a majority of the people here are here for the expansion. And if you're buying an expansion to a game you already like, once you factor in the promo cost, or once you factor in the promo pack, the cost is not that bad. So you may as well jump on it now. Hop on in, but it will not hold its value, almost certainly not. And that's going to be Vault Wars. From there we have Doom Machine, a mint tin card game plus dice solo game. This game actually looks really cool, looks totally up my alley. It involves having a bunch of cards in a small little pack. Think Sprawlopolis, think any mint tin games, think any small container of a game. We have to figure out how to play and manage that puzzle. And this very much is going to be managing that puzzle. You're going to be rolling dice both to attack the various machine cards that are trying to slowly tear you apart and whatnot, as well as rolling dice to defend. So you're going to be assigning dice as the machine slowly grows, expands, becomes harder and harder to deal with. The question is, can you take out the machine before it takes out you, as the machine grows progressively more powerful? It looks like a fun little solo game. There's a bunch of content out there. We have Ito put out some stuff. We had what's it called, Rolling Solo. Sorry, not Rolling Solo. One Stop Co-op Shop. Mike put out a thing. There are a few other content creators around us putting out a decent amount of content around the game. Looks pretty solid. Looks like a fun game. Unfortunately, the price point is on the higher end. So if you look at the price point, you're talking about $19 plus I think it was $8 shipping for the US, so $27 to get this tiny game, when that's basically 2 button shy games. It's a mint, it's probably a little comparable to Mint 10, a little bit more, but it's still fairly expensive considering the content you're getting for the game. That said, it may well be your best opportunity to get this game, because if you, practically speaking, if you look at the game, we have 1,500 backers, and if you look at their prior games, their most popular prior game is going to be Blessed Dark. Blessed Dark had 750 backers, and if you look on Board Game Geek, there are 0 people trading it and 0 copies sold. So out of those 750 copies available, no one is trading it or has sold it, which means it is hard to get your hands in it. So on the one hand, this might be your best opportunity to get it, because it looks like getting it down the road is hard. They don't have retail distribution, at least not yet, and so this may well be your best opportunity to get it, even if you are paying more than you should be paying just in terms of the content, the physical components alone. A video I plan on doing at some point, though, is at the end of the day, physical components are one facet of what goes into a game, so I usually factor in what the actual cost is and whether it holds its value, which are different conversations than anything about whether it's worth. Worth is subjective, but the market determines worth after the fact. So this one may be your best opportunity to get it. You may or may not get your money back. If you pay $27 for this game, can you get $27 back? I don't know. Looking at their past games, there's no sales history on them, so it's hard to really see whether there's enough demand. I think this is likely to be their most popular of their games, which does mean there are likely to be more copies filtering the way down to the secondhand market, but still not a ton. If 750 backers got you 0, then 1500 backers gets you 0 times 2. Not actually the way the math works, it's a little different than that, but it's unclear how easy this will be to get your hands on, so if you're interested in it, I do recommend just paying the $27 now, even if it is more than you would otherwise pay. As far as holding its value, because of the fact that it's hard to find these games, you may well find some person who's willing to pay you $35 to get your copy, and you'll cover your whole pledge or whatever it is after the fact. Hard to know for sure, but it is one that goes into that range of just low accessibility, which makes it a different conversation. From there we have, that's the page over there, from there we have Shadow Tactics, the board game. I will not be talking about the value or the game on this one. This one I'm talking about something totally different, which is the fact I'm on this one I'm here to inform. I am not in any way talking about the value or the game, because I'm not here to provide them with publicity, and we'll go into the whole why. So Shadow Tactics, the board game, if you look at their other Kickstarters, they have, nope, that's not there. If we look at, let's say, Antler Games, and we go to Antler Games, 5 created, and we see what they have. So they have delivered Saltlands. I don't know much about Critters Below, so I can't comment on that, but they have Shadow Tactics, the board game, on Kickstarter, and it ended, let's see when it ended. Let's look at updates and scroll down. So, Shadow Tactics, the board game, ended. We should need to find a few more updates. I had this up before, but somehow I lost it. So, if we keep scrolling, it's very, very patient, don't worry about this. And here we go. Project fund successfully February 14th, 2019. So February 14th, 2019, 2 years ago, is when this project funded. And you're like, well, Alex, what's the problem with that? There's another Kickstarter out. That seems normal. You don't give, Kingdom Rush, or you don't give Lucky Duck Games a problem for this. You don't give Super Fantasy Brawl a problem. Why do you care about second Kickstarters? The answer is because there is no first Kickstarter. This is a Pledge Manager Access campaign where they're throwing in some new content because you have to do that on Kickstarter, but the first game never delivered. What they're doing is they're 2 years out. They haven't manufactured the game yet. If you look at the most recent updates, they're lining up new backers so that they can then proceed and start with manufacturing, which basically means they're launching an entirely new Kickstarter to continue the funding and the process of something that ended 2 years ago. Now, to be very clear, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with anything anyone does as long as they are informing you, as long as they are keeping you up to date as far as what your options, what your risk, what your choices are. But in this case, they aren't. If you scroll through this entire campaign, there is barely anything to indicate or hint whatsoever that there is a previous unfulfilled campaign. They are pitching this as if it's kind of a new campaign, or just using enough vagaries and avoidances that it does not scream, hey everybody, just so you know, this is a new campaign to help us finish and fulfill something that is 2 years old. They are not giving you the knowledge and the information, which means they're not letting you make an informed decision. So practically speaking, they have a section on, old backers, but it reads just as if, it was a second campaign. It doesn't read as if there's an outstanding pending campaign from 2 years ago. So ultimately where we are on this one is I have no problem. I don't know what the situation is. I don't have a problem with people trying to sell more. I don't have a problem if they're using this campaign to help fund fulfillment. I have zero problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that they are not giving you, the backer, the information you need to make an informed choice, and they're relying on people like either myself, other content creators, or you to do enough digging on your own to kind of figure out that this isn't an entirely new Kickstarter with new content, but rather it is still an outstanding pending Kickstarter that has never arrived. So I'm not going into the game, I'm not going to the value proposition, I'm not going to any of that, because I don't care. I'm not spending time on this past the fact that I'm going to warn and inform yourself that you should walk in making an informed decision. And to be very clear, I'm not saying don't back it. If you want to back it, by all means back it. Just walk in informed. Understand that you are giving money to a company that is 2 years behind on fulfillment and seem to be running this campaign to help them fulfill it, which may well be the push it needs to get them over the door. But it also is a risk, and you should understand at all times where you are putting your money. That's why I do these videos to begin with. So that's Shadow Tactics, not going to the game, not covering that at all, but just understand that it is a subsequent late pledge Kickstarter for something that hasn't delivered for 2 years ago that is going to start going into manufacturing after this campaign is done, supposedly. So that's where we are there. Moving on to there. We have Force of Radgost. I've gotten a lot of requests for Force of Radgost. So, Force of Radgost is going to be a cooperative game that has an interesting take of how the game plays, which that's the aspect of you're managing both the heroes and the monsters depending on the night phase, depending on the day phase. Ultimately, it is a game that is mechanically driven, but it is more story and narrative driven. I would say overall, if you are not interested in story or narration or anything like that, not like literal narration, but if you're not interested in the story and the thematic ties of the game, then I would recommend skipping this game. I do not think, based on everything I've looked into the game, I think this one is okay mechanically, but more about the story or whatnot, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, by the way. I've played many games, even Seventh Continent or ISIS Vanguard, I think are lighter on the mechanic side. Now, I don't know how lighter they are compared to Force of Radgost, so I can't comment there, but overall, I would say this is one you should not be walking into if you are primarily looking for a mechanically different experience. But overall, the game is going to be a game which you are wandering into the forest to find the lost children, and then encountering your personal quests and creatures and monsters all along the way, dealing with all that, and then as the night flips, you take the control of the monsters instead and encounter the bumbling heroes. So you're kind of playing both sides as you go through this interesting experience. The prices here are very interesting because they actually have a minis only pledge, which I've seen tons of people ask for in different campaigns and usually is never done. So we have, let's see if we have a visual aid over here. I always like the visual aids over what we have on the sidebar here. So if we can scroll down, I'm scrolling past tons of miniatures. You can check these out. In fact, maybe I'll take a look at the miniatures shortly if I can find, where is the pledges? Pledges. Here we go. So for $64, we have, they skipped a pledge. They skipped the mini pledge. Here we go. The Perinica pledge is going to be $49 for all 29 miniatures. Does not include a copy of the game, but includes all stretch goals. So if you just want the miniatures, $49 plus shipping will get you that. And by the way, that will be charged in the pledge manager as well as shipping. So factor that in. Then we have the Acorn pledge, which is going to give you $64 for the base game plus a bunch of standees. The Oak pledge, which is going to be both the Acorn pledge plus the Perinica pledge combined for discounts. You're getting the full base game plus the miniatures for a discount. The Divine pledge is going to give you access to these 2 larger miniatures plus this dice cup over here, plus the marble effect dice. So it's giving you 2 extra larger miniatures and then a few extra deluxifications for an extra $30 for the game. And then what else do we have? That's going to be the pledges over there. Shipping's going to come in very reasonably priced, all things considered. Shipping's coming in ranging as like between $10 to $15 for the US, and then up from there. It's still relatively cheap compared to all these options over here. Rest of the world for Perinica pledge is $22. It's a pretty solid pledge in terms of that's miniatures only factored in, but still overall the pricing here seems pretty solid if those estimates hold true. As far as the miniatures, let's go through the miniatures of the game. So the miniatures look great. I mean, overall, they're very unique, which I like. So, the unique stuff's always fun. But they have, we have Lesnick, we have Besomar. I'm going to stop saying names before I butcher something. But they have very unique miniatures. Look at this, reverse centaur thingamajig. It's a very interesting combination. We have the Wolves, we have the Wraith, we have Mora. I'm still saying names. We have Oma. I'm going to stop saying names now. We have a lot of very interesting, I think it was Slavic, if I'm not mistaken. I think the culture was Slavic that it was based on. But a lot of miniatures, all driven from these things. And then we have Radgost himself as one of the larger miniatures. There we go. We have Radgost, who's the force of Radgost. That's overall what's going on at the game. And we have this one. This is a giant miniature over here, which looks cool. All these things, very unique sculpts and stylings to the game. As far as should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? It's a hard one to say on this one. This one falls into this category where the game is unique enough. The content you're getting for the price point is not bad. And with 2,000 backers already with 9 days to go, there is enough of an audience for this game that it's not one of those things where you look and say, oh, well, there's only 300 backers. There's just no demand for this game. You're going to have a hard time getting your money back. There is demand for this game. It's not super high, but it's decently high. But the game itself is unique enough that it is hard to say. Overall, this falls into one of those categories where I don't consider this a safe back, but I consider it a safe-ish back, which means, practically speaking, I think this one is one that is not going to tank and dump. This is not one where you're going to be paying $100 for your copy of the game and then it's available for $40 in the secondhand market because nobody wants a copy. Obviously, that could happen if it's a straight up bad game, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is one where you're probably talking about losing out on shipping, maybe a little bit more. I don't think it's going to fully hold its value. I could be wrong. It's a very unique situation because the game itself is unique. The price point plus game combination is not one that we see a lot of. The overall demand after the fact will be there, but will not be super high. So if you sell it when you first get your pledge, maybe you can get everything back because you find that person. Maybe. I would say over time, expect to lose something on this as you turn around and sell it, but likely getting back 70-75%, maybe more of your actual pledge. So it's in that safe-ish category, but not that one that I think you will be losing some money on if you try to back it now versus getting your hands on it later. And that's going to be Force of Radgost. Then we have Paladins of the West Kingdom, City of Crowns, with 4,000 backers, $274,000 raised, and a clear, easy message of Kickstarter or retail. This is how you do it, by the way. I'm paying attention to Stronghold Games here. City of Crowns in the collector's box will be coming to retail in various languages. There are no exclusive items in this Kickstarter campaign. If you prefer to wait for the items to become available in retail, we are 100% okay with that. Please just choose whichever option works best for you. This is a significantly better message than the one Terraforming Mars that Ares Expedition that Stronghold Games put out in their FAQ, which we will go through when we get up to that one. But overall, it's a quick, clean, simple message, does not pull any punches, and overall, I agree with them. This price point over here is going to come in at $28 for this game. It's going to be an expansion for Paladins of the West Kingdom. It's going to be the City of Crowns expansion that adds borders extensions, it adds updated rules for solo play, it adds new townsfolk, outsiders, a whole bunch of new cards across the board. Each player has a new attribute to manage, diplomacy, and then like the board extensions that I mentioned already. So you're going to have all of that. The contents of the game are going to be visible over here, so you can see what you're getting over here, and it's a $28 expansion. Now, if you look at other expansions in the West Kingdom trilogy, that's roughly what it'll cost at an online store, and they're charging you like what? It was like $4 shipping to the US, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if we could find the shipping chart. Or was it in here? I think it's actually in. You have to click through to here. Shipping is going to be $8 New Zealand dollars, which is roughly $5 to $6 US. So you're paying roughly $5 to $6 above what you would otherwise pay to get this game. Now, this is an expansion for Paladins of the West Kingdom. If you are interested in paying $5 more to get your hands on a copy of the game now versus later, go ahead and do so. Will it hold its value? Absolutely not, because you're going to be wanting to sell it for the same price as people are selling new copies of the game online for. So it will not hold its value. It does fall into that expansion zone of, if it's an expansion you like and you just want to pay a few extra bucks because you want to get your own copy now, then by all means. If you are looking to jump into this trilogy for the first time, if you're looking to jump into Paladins of the West Kingdom, well, they're not giving you a reason to back it. I didn't even see anything about a promo pack. Usually they do a promo pack in some of these expansions. I haven't seen, or some of the games. I don't know if they do in the expansions. I have not seen anything about a promo pack here. So from what I can see, there is no reason to get this game now, except for the fact that, well, obviously supporting Garphill Games, and if you like the game yourself, which I have no problem with, but they're being clear and communicative about what they're offering, what they're doing, what the price point is, all of that, plain and simple. So that's overall. If you're, again, just quick summary there, if you're jumping for the first time, get it at retail. If you're jumping to the Kickstarter, then, well, if you like the game and want to get expansion, just decide if you want to pay that premium. Past that, there's an opportunity to get a lot more stuff, including the collector box over there. And by the way, what's it called? Stella's short and sweet, Meeple University. I just hope that part of her contract when she takes on any project for anyone is that she gets, a costume along with it, that they pay for her costume, because the amount of helmets and swords and weapons and things she has in her videos is impressive. But from there, they had a great graphic over here. This is the graphic you're going to find over here that covers what the various options are. So you have the base game, you have the Diplomat, you have the City of Crowns plus the Collector's Box. Goes through all the options. Yes, they are covered on the sidebar as well, but they're quick and clear to see here, including the percentage off MSRP and all of that. You can get the Tome Stock, you can get the metal coins. I believe all of the things you're getting, if they came with the promo pack in the Kickstarter, you are getting the promo pack as well. I think it said that somewhere. I can't remember where it said that. There was a place where it said no stretch goals, they're not doing any stretch goals. There was a place where they said you're getting all the promos if you get the games here as well, for whatever you get. So that's Paladins of the West Kingdom, City of Crowns. Moving on, we have Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. Let's take a look at the FAQ. By the way, they actually may have updated it. I wonder if they did. Why don't you answer questions about pricing? So, it doesn't look like they updated it. We'll come back to that soon. So, Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, I did a full Should You Back It video on this. Overall, what this one's going on with this one, we have 9,565 backers, $650,000 raised. This may well cross $1 million, although it's going to be close. I predicted this as being one of the games that will cross $1 million. I think it still will, but it's definitely going to be close with 12 days to go. I mean, they'd have to basically get another like 7,000 backers, 6,000 backers for that to happen, which might happen. We'll see. You often get that last spike at the end, and like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm backing this myself. At the end of the day, even though I think the pricing is not good on this one, I like the game enough, or I like the base game enough that I'm willing to pay and risk it or not, or whatnot to get this game. So, for those who did not watch my Should You Back It video, ultimately Terraforming Mars is take Terraforming Mars, cut it down to about an hour, and then combine it with Race for the Galaxy. That is the game you are playing here. It gives you a condensed Terraforming Mars experience, mixes up the gameplay, and gives you a whole bunch of stuff you can actually do in playing the game, makes it more accessible, takes away some things I like, but makes it a shorter play time, and it still does have solo. So for me, I'm interested in this game off the bat. Worst case scenario, I don't like it, and I like its older brother better, and I turn around and sell it, and I lose 10, 15 bucks. That is something I'm fine with for a game that I like this much. Terraforming Mars is my my second highest game of all time. It's my number 2 rated game, one that I'm very much looking forward to, and well, one that I love, and I'm looking forward to this one, Ares Expedition. But overall, the pricing is not going to be great. They had a ton of questions in the comments about MSRP, 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 and they ignored all those questions. Eventually, they put in the FAQ, that answer there, why don't you answer questions about pricing? So now, keep in mind, the questions weren't, why is this priced badly? Why is this priced unfairly? Why is this overpriced? Those questions sometimes will follow, but the questions were, what is the MSRP? It's a factual piece of information that will eventually turn up. It's something that the only reason, that's not true, there are 2 reasons to potentially hide it from the people. The first is to change the perspective of value. To change the perspective of value of what you can expect to pay for this game at retail, in other words, to take away the informed choice that a backer can make. You're hiding something. You're not saying, oh, just do or don't. You're saying do or don't, and we're hiding something from you. The other reason, which is worth mentioning, is Kickstarter does have a statement that does imply you shouldn't talk about MSRP for something that isn't actually available for sale. I don't know what the enforceability is because, first of all, I know that's not true. I know what the enforceability is. The enforceability is 0. Every campaign, left, right, and center, talks about MSRP, about what the MSRP of the game will be, and so I highly doubt that Stronghold Games is getting slapped down when they aren't. But it's worth mentioning that because they can say that as a reason. I think it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Stronghold Games. I don't agree with the way they handle this conversation because the response over here is, why don't you answer questions about pricing? Pricing isn't a topic that we discuss in the comment section of any of our projects. Every project has people that think such prices are too high or too low. That's just how pricing works. Lots of work has gone into this project, and it isn't our first project, so we feel we have a good handle on how to make this game a reality. In the end, we set prices based on our costs and the value that our products deliver. You, as a backer, make a decision to back this project or not. In most cases, you'll be able to find this game without any of the promos, blah, 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 fine. So they kind of talk down to the backers in the sense that we don't talk about pricing because people will just think it's too high or too low, and that's how pricing works. But again, that's not what people asked. People were asking what the MSRP is. They weren't asking whether the price is too high or too low. They were just asking what the MSRP is. And then secondly, the whole, we know what we're doing and whatnot. They could have written a much better response that is much similar to what Garpal Games did. The Garpal Games didn't judge. They didn't offer any opinion. They just said, hey, here's the situation. It is what it is. And they kept it very, very flat. There was no dismissiveness of people's opinions, or I just knocked my whole entire computer there. There's no dismissiveness of people's opinions or anything like that. It didn't feel like they were talking down to you. It felt like they were just saying, here's the situation, decide accordingly. I don't think either company is bad or good or anything else. I think someone else could have written a more customer focused email over there or FAQ over there. And keep in mind, I should, what's the expression about casting stones, whatever it is. I run Board Game Co, and we have certainly written, we and me have certainly written emails that I regret in the past. I am not saying that I'm infallible, and I certainly have done things that I could have drafted or phrased better, and that will 100% be true. That being said, in terms of Stronghold Games, I think someone else should have drafted an FAQ that felt like it treated the backers like part of the community as opposed to a confrontational relationship. Small little tidbit about, Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. All that said, I still plan on backing this game because I love the original game, like I said, and I'm willing to pay that extra premium, but it is an extra premium. You may be better off waiting until retail. You do get the promo pack, which is a factor, and for me, I'll lose the $5 rather than hunting down the promo pack from Board Game Geek and getting the base game and getting it later, so that's where we are there. Moving on, we have Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising by Lucky Duck Games. This is going to be the standalone Kingdom Rush game. I did a full Should You Back It video on this one as well. And this is basically, it's a standalone Kingdom Rush game that's giving you, look at this. This is a solo and cooperative experience that I love. That's a terrible testimonial. After you play, you'll be coming back for more. That's a pretty good testimonial. Kingdom Rush stands alone as Tower Defense Champion. That's true. I do agree with that. Challenging events, great mechanics, and fantastic heroes. Again, I agree with all of these, honestly. Except for this guy. This guy's the worst. So, overall, Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising is giving you the Kingdom Rush core game with a different experience. I have a gameplay with Quackalope, I have a full review, I have a full Should You Back It, I have tons of content on this game. It's one that I love. I love the original Kingdom Rush. It was one that I was looking forward to, and it was one that I was very happy with the final product when it delivered. Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising does enough things differently that I like it. I think I like it more, but it's, again, this mixed bag. Some things I like more but the other ones, some things I like more but Elemental Uprising. Overall, I think I like Elemental Uprising more. If you are budget conscious, if you are trying to figure out where to put your backing dollars, and you already have Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising, now if you already have Kingdom Rush Rift in Time, then I would recommend skipping on this one. I think this is a good game. I think it's a solid game. If this is your first time into the saga, go ahead, jump on this, get this one. Or just get it at retail, the original one. Again, I covered all this in the Should You Back It video. But ultimately, what it comes down to is I think it's a good game, will mostly hold its value. You might lose a bit on shipping, or might lose 10% of that. Again, the original game did fine, but not amazing in terms of holding its value. That will likely stand true for the Elemental Uprising expansion as well. It's one that I'm backing this one because I like the game and I want more for the game. But if you are trying to prioritize where to spend your money and you have the original, I don't think there's enough different things going on here for you to put your hard-earned dollars towards this as opposed to something else. But if you have the budget and you like the game, then yes, go ahead and get this. It'll give you more towers, more missions, more variabilities, more monsters, new mechanics that I like, and all of that. And that is going to be Rift in Time. And by the way, it's a fun thing over here. So that's the Kicktrack page over there. So right now we're at $410,000 raised with 11 days to go. If you look at Kicktrack and you follow, Kicktrack was because I saw a bunch of comments about how it isn't doing nearly as well as the original, and that's true, but also not true. So the true part is I don't think it will end at $1 million, but we'll see, because if you follow the 11 days of the campaign last time, if you go back 11 days, it was at roughly 420,000 roughly with 11 days left to go. So it is keeping pace with the original campaign, which is pretty solid for a game that a lot of these people who might want this game already have the other game and are following the advice I'm giving of not getting this because not enough is different. So in terms of keeping pace with the original, it's doing a pretty solid job. Will it see that slow pickup and build up to cross $1 million, let alone $1,100,000? I don't think it will. I think it'll probably close closer to the $800,000 to $900,000 range, and even that might not be. Sometimes the campaigns get a really solid start. Sometimes they continue keeping traction the whole way through. Sometimes they get a pickup at the end. All these things are possible. Ultimately, we'll see. As far as stretch goals, let's cover stretch goals before I go on to the next stuff. So, stretch goals overall, this is where I actually don't like how GameFound handles stretch goals, because they have all these little, let me see if I can find them here. There is a sidebar, but it's blocked by my face. Actually, I can click over here and scroll down. Let's see, go to stretch goals, here we go. So if we go to stretch goals, look how easy that was. There you go, GameFound, I like you. So, GameFound, over here we have all these stretch goals, which in theory works great. The problem is this particular view, in my opinion, does not work well for those times when you take one stretch goal and break it up into its subcomponents. I don't care about the Shade Elemental minis. I don't care about the new scenarios. I don't care about the new Tower Mod stickers. I care about the bundle that we are currently unlocking. So I'm going to have to completely ignore what is otherwise a very useful feature that is being made less useful when you combine it with breaking apart a singular thing into multiple distinct components. And I'm going to go ahead and look at these stretch goals over here. So we already have the Forged with Fire, which is giving you the new hero, the Ashes, the Phoenix hero, whatnot, all the relevant components associated. We have the Elemental Discovery, which is giving you a bunch of, the Fire Blossom tokens, the Storm Blossom tokens, a whole bunch of new stuff over there, the new Anubis mini boss. So we're alternating. We went from new hero to new stuff to, again, new hero lurking in the shadows. Actually, I think there's a new boss, we have the new boss. So we have the Umbra boss miniature and reference card, the Shade Elementals, all those. Again, those are being broken up individually. We have the new Shadow Challenge mode stickers. We have the new Tower mods. Ooh, Tower mods. I want more Tower mods. We have the Iron Challenges, and now we're on Quest 4, where we currently have Frost Blossoms and Earth Stone Blossoms, and getting all of those things, where we'll continue moving on from there. So we'll see where the project ends. I anticipate more heroes, but overall, lots of new content being added, which is great, because I'm only getting this game because I want more content. And then from there, we move on to Tharos. Tharos is going to be by Spielworks Games, and this is one that is, so this is going to be a dice bag building game that is in a steampunk universe, and it is unfortunately fairly expensive in this one. If you take a look at this one, with $72 plus shipping to get this game, and it's unlikely to hold that value. It may well be limited availability. If we scroll down, we have why support them, we have Tharos has easy mechanics, tons of replayability, lots of decision making, all these good things. Small indie publisher, that's true. Guaranteed copy of Tharos because it may not show up in retail distribution. That is also totally true. An experienced team, all these things are all true, but for $72 before shipping for this game, it is very, very unlikely this will hold its value. Is it your best opportunity to get it? Honestly, with 397 backers, I think even the secondhand market is likely a better chance of getting this game at a cheaper price. But if you really want the game and you're certain about it, jump on in now. I just think it's very overpriced, and you will unlikely see that money back, or even remotely close, in my opinion. And that's going to be Tharos. Moving on from there, we have Bandada. This is going to be like the micro game, whatever that one is, because I already moved past it, and I totally forgot the name. Now I want to find the name. It was Doom Machine. So this is going to be like Doom Machine, sort of. Nope, that's the one ahead. Bandada is going to be a small card drafting dice manipulation game in which you have a bunch of birds that you're trying to take, and each bird is both going to manipulate dice and score you points based on the dice. So you start the game by rolling 12 dice, then you draw a card which will let you manipulate dice and score based on how the dice are presenting. So you might have dice you might have a bird that gives you points for every die that's below, every yellow die that's below a 4. Great, awesome. And then you might take a card that manipulates the dice to be below 4 on those yellow dice. And you go back and forth taking birds and scoring for your full tableau every single time, which results in this thing where the points keep escalating higher and higher as you fight with each other over these dice. So it's a combination of trying to figure out the best scoring birds, the best manipulative birds, and seeing what your opponent's doing and trying to find a strategy that can mess with them while still helping yourself. So it's very interesting in the game. It's delivering. It's a $15 game with roughly $5 shipping to the United States. I do not think it will hold its value, but it actually might. This is one of those ones where if it's popular enough and it's hard to get your hands on, people might want to jump in on this one. It does have very much a Sprawlopolis vibe in terms of a small condensed package that people will want the puzzle that's being presented here. I haven't decided if I'm backing it myself, but I'm tempted. I'm not pulled in by the art at all, which is my biggest thing. I have a hard time seeing myself pulling this out, but the puzzle it's presenting, I actually like the puzzle. So I'll find out later what decision I made, but overall that is Bandada. Moving on, we have Block and Key. Block and Key is going to be by Connor McGuey, who is, I can't pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, Connor. Block and Key is a game that looks like this. It's a game in which you are trying to match up. Let me see if I can find a picture. So we have a good picture over here. You have cards over here that you have to try to look at them and match up what the card shows and what you see from your angle. Because when you're looking at the game over here, every player at the table will have their own unique angle of how they are approaching that game, of what they are seeing, what they are looking at. And so you're doing this combination of taking new cards, taking new tokens that you will put on the board. Those tokens will both help yourself and hurt other opponents because suddenly they might get in the way or block them or even help other opponents too at the same time. It's an interesting puzzle combined with an element that pushes it up so you're not like crouched at your table trying to like look down and see everything going on there. It's a concept that's been done before. I can't remember all the names. The most recent one is going to be Control by Pandasaurus Games, had a similar concept. Overall, these style of games historically are fun. They're a good puzzle. None of them have really stuck in terms of being a game that sticks around. In general, puzzly games have a harder time sticking. Sprawlopolis, speaking of which, is actually a good exception to that rule. Usually, puzzle style games, Ubongo, Block and Key, Control, anything provides you more of a look how we solve this little puzzle situation. They don't tend to have the staying value long term. That being said, it still might be fun for a year or two, or in your collection, it might be fun for who knows how long. People have Ubongo in their collection for years. As far as retail availability, so they currently have no retail availability at the moment. They have no plans for a standard version. If there is a retail version, they're going to strip down a lot of the extras, such as the clay blocks, how they handle the box, any number of things are on the table. So coming in at a $43 price point for the game, plus shipping and handling, this might be your best opportunity to get the game. It's certainly a unique one. It's certainly one that is not going to have a huge availability with 1,000 plus backers. I mean, we have 17 days to go, so it'll probably be 2,000 plus backers by the time it's done. It might be hard to get your hands on a copy. Do I think it'll sell for $53 down the road? I think you'll lose something. Maybe you'll even just lose the shipping. I don't know. But I don't think it might be your best opportunity to get a copy, but I don't think it's going to fully hold its value. You might have to take a hit on it when you turn around and sell it down the road. But if you're intrigued by the premise, if you're intrigued by the puzzle, this, like I said, might be your best opportunity to jump on it, unless you want to wait for the secondhand market and see how that plays out and see if you can, wait an extra 7 months to save $7, which might happen. That might be how it works. Moving on from there, we have Zombicide, Undead or Alive. Wow. Whew. Command has an ability to drop games that will pull in $1 million, even though it's the 15th version of the same game. Now, I did a full should you back it on Zombicide, Undead or Alive, and I did it day one because it's easy. It's a Command dedicated campaign, not one of their offshoot small campaigns, which means I don't even need to see what they're going to do. I can tell you with complete authority, 100%, this will hold its value, to the point that I use this as I have on my Patreon a concept, a thing called Kickstarter Insurance, which basically is a fancy way of saying if you're my Patreon, I'll buy your game from you if you can't sell it for the price you paid. And I have specific picks that I pick every single month in terms of I pick games that are guaranteed to hold their value. It's basically, honestly, it's just games that are going to hold their value, but I'm just doubling down on it. And in this case, Zombicide Undead or Alive is very much the game I'm doubling down on because it'll absolutely hold its value. That base pledge or whatever it is, you pay $100 for it with what you get. You can easily turn around and flip it for much more. It's not a question at all. Zombicide is going to be a game, if you don't already know, because how would you not know? Where have you been? Zombicide comes out with a new game every year or two, and it's basically the basic concept of it is you have a bunch of survivors who are going to be running around, finding equipment, rolling dice, hitting zombies, leveling up, getting new abilities. Meanwhile, the zombies are slowly trying to take you out, and escalating is as you level up, so do the zombies effectively. More of them are coming at you, and it ends up being fairly well balanced for the most part in terms of trying to survive and do what you can until you eventually make your way to orange or red in terms of your difficulty, your upgrading, at which point you can slowly start taking them out. But it usually is a challenge along the way. I've lost as many games of Zombicide as I've won. It is a solid experience that is immensely fun, which is why I am 100% backing this even though I don't need to at all. I have Zombicide Invader, I have Zombicide Black Plague, I have Zombicide Green Horde, I have Night of the Living Dead, although I'm getting rid of that. I have Season 2 coming. I have tons of Zombicide. I don't need more. And yet I'm getting more because it's Zombicide, Undead or Alive, it's Cowboys. There were enough things that the game did that were fun. I did have a gameplay with Quackalope where I played the game. Overall, a solid game that I'm looking forward to what it does there. The wooden dice are cool, although I am still a little bit skeptical on this one because on the one hand, I like the idea of wooden dice. On the other hand, if it's not like really high quality wood, they're going to be light. They're going to be popcorn dice and not really... dice need heft. So I really hope there's some heft there. I don't know if they want to like insert some metal core or something. I doubt they're doing that. It's come on after all. But I do want high quality dice. Otherwise, we're just going to be using some standard D6 and being sad about the dice situation. Overall, what do we have updates so far? So if you want more information, watch my full Should You Back It video where I go through a much deeper dive in terms of the game, what's different, what's changed, all of that. But basically, it's Zombicide with a Western theme and some rules changes, some of which I felt were streamlined, some of which were just differences. So far, we have a lot of stretch goals because, like I said, come on, they do a lot of stretch goals. We have all these over here. I think they just unlocked one even from when I started this video till now. I believe they unlocked one. They do have Django Unchained over here. So if you want Wolf, who's definitely not Django Unchained, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. There's going to be Wolf over here. We'll take a look at the stretch goals in more detail shortly. We have the daily duels, which can have 2 walkers, each with their own special ability of how they handle things when they come out of the bag, as well as the Pus Bag Abomination and the Alpha Bane Abomination. The Pus Bag, I don't remember what it does. I could go check, but the Alpha Bane Abomination is basically 3 activations, which I want more from because they've done that before. They've had a game that Black Plague has an abomination that gets 3 activations, so I want more. I want differences. Be creative. There are so many ways you can be creative in this game. I want to see creativity. The flip side is for a newcomer, streamlined and simple is a good thing. So myself as an experienced Zombicide player, I want more fun, creative, interesting things. Newcomers to the genre will want, 3 activations, plain and simple, not something complicated. But it is a cool miniature, so I'm okay with that. But additionally, they have, in terms of add-ons, they have Long Dead Walkers for $20. This is a Kickstarter exclusive add-on. Get your hands on this. It's just like the Deadeye Walkers, any of the other expansions for Zombicide that have gone out of print. This will be easily selling for $50. In fact, buy 4 copies. It will at some point be selling for $50, almost guaranteed. I'm not actually guaranteeing it, do it at your own risk, but I'm pretty sure it will. And the Long Dead Walkers are going to be walkers that you cannot take them out with ranged weapons. You have to take them out with melee weapons, so it presents an additional challenge. That is my favorite part of Zombicide, the additional challenges that the types of walkers will bring. The abominations are cool, but they're not frequent enough or common enough. I want the things. I want the crows. I want the dogs. I want the swarms of rats. I want all the things that change up the experience. We have more deluxified wooden dice in case you want more. And normally I'd be all over this, but I don't know if these are going to be light dice that don't have heft to them, and I'm not willing to pay $10 for something without heft just yet. So I'm keeping an eye on these, but I don't know what I'm actually going to do here, because the last thing I want to do is pay $10 for dice and then just end up replacing them with standard D6 because these weren't good enough. As far as the updates, so let's take a look over here because we have update 28, I believe. You see, over here it says 27 because that's what it was earlier. 28 is what they most recently added. So the most recent new addition they have is Trips. Wait, what? Trips? They have Lilith and then Trips. Keep in mind, I don't know my stuff at all in terms of Wild West, so I only know a handful of the actual options out there. And we have Carl. Oh, what's this? Continue exploring the core box. Okay, cool. Core box stuff. That's not what I actually want to do right here, although I do want to talk about some stuff in a second. But let's go ahead and keep scrolling down. Lots of stuff. Whoa, we got some cool stuff over here. These are all the core box survivors. So if you want to see more information about them, the newest update apparently has them. I want to see some Django Unchained. So if we go to previous and we go back, nope, that's going to be the newest thing over here. Let's go previous. This is going to be a long video, I'm realizing. Long video. I can't find Django, although there's something I want to show you in this update too. But we have over here, where's Django? Django might be one more earlier. Should have just opened this link up earlier. That would have probably been better. If it's not this next one, then I give up. Here we go. Yep, Wolf. So we got Django Unchained, which means if we go back one more update. See, I said I'll give up, but I was lying. And here we go. Wolf. That's Django Unchained. Absolutely. Not even a question. Look at that miniature. It's cool. I want it. I'm happy with it. That's basically all that's going on there. And then, lastly, remember Massive Darkness? How I wanted a Quackalope mini in Massive Darkness? If you've been watching this channel for long enough, or if you followed Massive Darkness, I pushed for a Quackalope miniature in Massive Darkness. I am excited to say that they finally did it in Zombicide. Over here, we have this fatty with his camera equipment, which is clearly an homage to Jesse from Quackalope. So we finally got the Quackalope mini we wanted without without the horns up here, but the teeth count as horns. Got the photography equipment. This is clearly an homage to Jesse from Quackalope, so I'm very excited with this one. I will definitely paint something on this that will indicate clearly that it is a Quackalope miniature. Moving on, we have Stroganov. Stroganov by Game Brewer, 2,100 backers, $448,000 raised, doing incredibly well. This is going to be the deluxe edition only, so they're not giving you a retail and deluxe edition, so they're saving me the time of saying don't back the retail version, there's no point. They're giving you the deluxe edition alone, which is $72 for the deluxe edition, plus shipping for the game. This is going to continue the trend we're having recently of a bunch of expensive Euros. We had, I should remember all of these, or it kind of defeats the purpose, we had a bunch of expensive Euros recently. We had Darwin's Journey, we had Carnegie, I think we had more, I can't remember offhand, but we have Stroganov, so a bunch of expensive $100 Euros, although this is $72, once you factor in shipping, you're getting close to 100, but not there yet, so it is an expensive Euro that you can get 2 or 3 other Euros instead, or you can get this one, although this one is deluxeified. What a Stroganov is, the Stroganov is a game where you're managing different noble houses, and you're going to be moving along a track, you're advancing as far as you can along a track, using horses to move further, or whatever it is. The further you get, you'll get more rewards. It's a fur business where you're constantly trading, you're constantly acquiring fur to trade it in for different purposes or benefits. The game has an immense amount of variability, which is the main thing that appeals to me. I highly recommend the Man vs. Meeple video on it. I thought it was solidly done, and he goes through why it's one of his top 10 most anticipated games of 2021, and one of those reasons is going to be the immense amount of variability. If you watch my Carnegie review, you'll know that that's something that I look for as well in my Euro games. I want my Euro experiences to give me a different puzzle every single time. I don't want it to be the same puzzle where I just have to figure out and optimize it. I want it to be different every single time, and I believe this one will be. The flip side is they did caution that this might be one of those games that for him it's a good thing, that you can't get as much done as you'd like, and therefore it always feels like you want to jump back in and get more done, try different things. For myself, I like getting more stuff done, so that part is a bit of a flag for me, which is why I'm not sure if I'm backing this one yet or not. I haven't decided yet. I'm pulled in by the overall game and the amount of variability. I'm a little cautious about the fact that the art and visual presentation does not personally appeal to me. Plus, I like games where I can get like 70% of the stuff done. Not everything, because then it's not a puzzle or a challenge, but I like getting a lot of stuff done. I just want it to be a different way that I get a lot of stuff done every single time. As far as will it hold its value, should you back this game, should you not, it's Game Brewer, and Game Brewer has a track record. If you look at Gugong, if you look at any of their other titles that have hit the market, generally you can expect to lose on shipping plus a little bit. So if you're paying $85 or whatever it is for this game plus shipping, including shipping, then you're probably going to get back, $65, $70 on the aftermarket. In general, if you sell it right away, you might be able to get everything back. The longer you wait, the more the price stabilizes and the excitement goes away, and you will take a hit on the title. You will not take a huge tip. I mean, keep in mind, if you back this game at $85 and you play it for, I don't know, if you play it for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then you sell it for $20 less, it's not the worst thing you can do with $20. There are certainly worse things, but overall it is one that I expect to hold this value mostly, but not absolutely. Moving on, we have, this is going to be their Kickstarter page, because I opened that up. And moving on from there, we have Beasts of Balance Rebirth. Beasts of Balance Rebirth. Oh, we actually are almost closing. I might be able to close this up in under an hour. Beasts of Balance Rebirth is going to be the Jenga meets Pokemon stacking game. This is basically, it's an interesting game where you have these beasts or whatever it is, you're going to be putting down onto a central pillar and then balancing and stacking them as everything happens in an app. You can create combinations. It's going to have an interesting idea. Kids are going to have a lot of fun. Kids or adults, who am I lying to? Adults and kids will have fun putting down different tokens and creating different hybrids of beasts in their little app. That being said, I don't think it has staying power. If you look at this one on Board Game Geek, if you look at the marketplace, if you look on eBay, they've had a few Kickstarters, and this is one where generally there is a high price point to the game just because of the technology and the components involved, and that price point does not translate well into resale value after the fact, because it's one of those things people get, they love, they enjoy, they dive into it, and then you're trying to sell a $100 toy down the road, which is, historically speaking, a little bit harder, at least if that toy is not a board game. $100 toys that are board games sell very well. $100 toys that are toys are a little harder. You can pay as little as $65 just for the new stuff. And you can pay as much as, $350 I think it was, $345 to get absolutely everything. If we scroll down to find the various pledge levels over here, you can get a good visual indicator of what you're getting. Let me see if I can find them. Here we go. So pledge tiers, for $65 you get these 5 miniatures, or sort of miniatures things. The standard edition for $99 will get you all of that. The $125 will give you the Kickstarter exclusive edition. For $175 you get all of this, and for $220 you get all of that, and for $345 you get all of this. And if that doesn't look like $345 worth of stuff to you, think about whether it looks like $345 worth of stuff to the person you're trying to sell it to. That's the problem here. I think this is an interesting game. I think it's a good premise. I think there are some people who will get a ton of fun and enjoyment from this. I also think a large percentage of people that get this at varying pledge levels will get a certain amount of enjoyment and then be ready to move on from it to something else and take a big hit as they sell or move it on to the next person. In fact, if you go on Board Game Geek right now, you can find copies of this game available for a fairly reasonable price, much cheaper in terms of you get less stuff, you're not getting all this chunks of whatever, but if you want to see if it's an experience for you, there are cheaper access points to this Beasts of Balance game that you can take a look at. Which brings us to last but certainly not least is going to be Bloodstone. With 2,643 backers, $290,000 raised. This is shy of the original 5,000 backers in 48 hours that they were aiming for, and it may well be shy of that 5,000 backers in the entire campaign. I think it'll hit 5,000 backers in the entire campaign. There's no guarantee at this point, because at the end of the day, we have a skirmish game that I love. I played this game. I have a review and a playthrough. My playthrough's over on Quacklove's channel. My review is on my channel. Overall, I love this game. I just today dropped a full video comparing Bloodstone to like every other skirmish game that anyone asked about in my video, and so I did a video on that because why not. And this is the problem you have here is, despite the fact that I like it, despite the fact that I've played it, it is $125 for what does not look like $125 worth of components, and I don't disagree. At this point, the only reason, I still think it'll hold its value, to be clear, and I'm going to do a should you back it on the video. I'm going to do a full dedicated video, but my full dedicated video will be closer to the end of the campaign because I want to see what gets unlocked along the way. But at this point, based on the price point versus components, the main reason I think it'll hold its value is because it is a good game that people will want that is Kickstarter exclusive. So the fact that I have, though, that trio or whatever it is, means that it will hold this value after the fact, because there's just not going to be enough ways to get your hands on this game. If we're going to retail, at this point, I would say don't bother. It's probably not going to hold this value, but this one is not going to retail. It's 100% Kickstarter exclusive. This is your only chance. This, the secondary market, and potentially future Kickstarters. As far as that price point versus components, so this is one, again, I mentioned this earlier in the video. At some point I want to do a full video about the nature of pricing a game and contents, components, design, because sure, we could toss in a ton of extra miniatures and people are like, oh, more miniatures. Is it more gameplay? Is it good? Is it adding value? Or is it just more plastic to make you feel better about the $125 that you're spending? I'm not saying this in defense of the game. I am right there with you. I am looking at this game and thinking it is a high price point for the amount of components you are getting. But I also know that's a good game. The reason I am backing this game is because I've played it and I've enjoyed it and I know it's good. But as far as whether you're backing this game, that you're not in my shoes. You don't know it's a fun experience. For myself, given a choice between this and Zombicide, in terms of value, I'll take Zombicide. That will sell for more money. But in terms of the game that I want and will play, I'm taking Bloodstone easily. I'm getting both, but I would get Bloodstone easily because Bloodstone is more unique versus Zombicide is more Zombicide. So $125 for the gameplay you will get out of this, especially if you are someone who will play it PvP and PvE. If you'll play both the giant skirmish mode where you attack each other and deal tons of damage to each other, as well as the cooperative mode, then you will get a ton of value from this. If you are playing one or the other, it is a harder decision. I do recommend watching my full breakdown of covering Bloodstone versus everything. The most important part is going to be like the last 10 minutes or so, because that's when I compared it to Super Fantasy Brawl and Arena of the Contest, which I think are the two biggest contenders. Speaking of which, that is the video that, Legion of Games skipped straight to the punch and just did Super Fantasy Brawl and Arena of the Contest, which is great because those are where complete alignment. I think those are the two biggest comparisons, although I went through everything because I got a million questions asking me what people want to cover. So that we have over here, we have this quote: Bloodstone is ridiculously good fun. Competitive is a murderous brawl amongst friends, and co-op is a tense, down-to-the-wire, unique adventure. This has given me a serious run for my money. If you my favorite skirmish game when I just want to hurt someone, get Bloodstone. And I 100% agree with this quote. I mean, I gave it. I believe it. This is a solid game system, but I completely understand anyone who's looking at this page and saying $125 for what you get is just hard to justify. Now, they already have announced a design contest, so they already have at least one more hero coming. And the difference between 8 heroes and 9 heroes is big. I want every additional hero, because when you're playing 8 heroes, that means an 8-player game, which will granted rarely happen for me, is one that I'm experiencing all the heroes I can possibly have. Versus if you give me 12 heroes, you are giving me so much more variability. The math and the multiplication of how the different combinations work out, it scales up drastically. I want more Bloodstone. I will pay for more Bloodstone. My biggest complaint is the fact that I have 8 heroes, not that the price point is $125. If they said, hey, it's $50 for another 6 heroes, I'd be in a heartbeat. I want more content for the game in terms of the the hero variability and to give you that fun experience. Then again, Dice Throne started off with, 8 heroes or whatever it was, and then they had Dice Throne Adventure Season 2, and then they had Reroll. They have more content for the game. Overall, again, I completely understand the hesitancy. I believe it will hold its value. The more content and deluxifications and upgrades that they reveal throughout the course of the next, 19 days, that is why I'm holding off on the should you back it video, because I'd rather be able to say this is an incredible back, jump in on it, as opposed to, yeah, it's expensive, but it'll hold its value. And that is going to be Bloodstone. And lastly, and this should be, I think I mentioned this twice more, well, once now and once more after, but I have a GoFundMe for new camera gear to do a bunch of playthroughs. I'm going to be adding playthroughs to the channel, which requires, and as well as updating my unboxings in terms of being able to do a different type of unboxing. But basically, I need to get a second camera. Right now, I only have one camera, which means filming stuff that required 2 cameras is not really viable. And so I'm getting a second camera. I have links to all the equipment I'm getting down below. And first of all, I have $3,100 raised already, which from people where I'm not giving anything out. So I incredibly appreciate it. Anyone who has given anything at all, or even if you just like, subscribe. Again, I don't really do these pushes. This is like the first time in my year of the channel that I've really been pushing for something, because it helps the channel. If you're getting value out of the content, I appreciate it. If you're not, or you can't, that is totally fine. Don't worry about it. This should hopefully be the rarity. I understand nobody likes the whole like, subscribe, ring the bell, support my channel, Patreon. I try to avoid that stuff in general, but I'm doing it here. In terms of, yeah, so if you go down to the description somewhere here, I can't figure out how to go to the description. You have to scroll down. I can't figure out how to share the description, but I have a full link to all the camera equipment. Here we go, read more. So I have a link to all the camera equipment that I'm getting and all the various stuff that I'm getting for this thing. But yeah, I really appreciate it. Every single person who's given, as well as the people who said that they're not going to the GoFundMe, but who jumped on as patrons as well. I was planning on taking this down by now, but then I did a podcast with somebody where they mentioned it, and so I have to leave it up until the podcast goes live, because otherwise they're calling out a GoFundMe for something that won't actually exist. So it is going to be left up a little bit longer. The last time I'll be mentioning it will be Saturday in the Week in Review video that I do, and then after that I will be done mentioning this GoFundMe. But I very much appreciate every single person who has given until now. And that is basically everything. Just shy of an hour, and I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one. Okay, so, for those stuck around, we have over here, this is, so going back to my GoFundMe for a second, I went ahead, once we crossed $2,000 in the GoFundMe, I did go ahead and buy some stuff, and I did just do my first unboxing, which I'm going to show you, because I think it's cool. So, first of all, there's the equipment and stuff. So we have that camera along the ceiling, going all the way along the edge, so that's the camera pole. That's the fairly expensive piece of equipment. Now, I haven't gotten the other camera poles yet, or whatnot, because I mean, the GoFundMe hasn't fully been hit, and a bunch of pieces of equipment I'm holding off on. I haven't gotten my new lighting yet, so a bunch of stuff I haven't gotten. New microphone I haven't gotten, although I don't think I was planning on getting a new microphone. But if you notice down the table, what's that? What's that? That's right. This over here is Wild Ascent that I just filmed an unboxing of this morning. That's right, Wild Ascent finally arrived. This is an early copy, to be clear, so your copies aren't arrived yet, but I got my copy early because they wanted me to do some coverage in it. So Wild Ascent is a real thing. In case you were sitting there wondering about where your pledge was and whether you'd be excited or whatnot, I should have the unboxing video of this going up Saturday with my new camera gear. So it's going to be top shot and front shot. I edited the video this morning. I edited. It's a new thing in the channel. But I'm not editing the way I talk or speak or anything like that. I'm just adding more views or whatnot. But Wild Ascent's here. I plan on doing some actual full coverage. I'll also have a gameplay coming up soon, probably Saturday, not sure exactly. Played my first game with my wife on the channel, just a small short game, Gone Strung Clever, just to try, just to get practice at what we're doing before we dive into heavier, longer things. But it's exciting. I like doing new stuff, and this is certainly new stuff. Until next time, thanks for sticking around for the post-credit scene, and have a good one.